What if Y2K had gone hilariously and horribly different? Let's talk about the new horror comedy Y2K. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watch Our Past. I'm here to talk to you about Y2K, which is coming to theaters on December 6th, 2024. It is a nostalgia throwback horror comedy that looks at what might have happened if Y2K actually went the way that everyone kind of said it would. It is set in 1999, right before it turned over for this review. I wore my 1990s Nike Air shirt, authentic 1990s shirt, just to get in the right mindset. But is this movie worth your time? Is this movie worth watching? My hot take is I think you should watch it later. I think you should probably end up streaming it. It has a wonderful sense of nostalgia, of some really funny moments, and a great cast, including a really amazing cameo. But for me, it had a little bit more comedy than horror. The horror wasn't really that great. I mean, it's supposed to be campy, it's supposed to be cheesy, so it's not like a crazy horror movie. I just want the horror to be a little bit better, and it has a little bit of corny writing. So I didn't love this as much as I expected to. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the nostalgia feel. I enjoyed, transporting myself back in the 90s. But overall, I think you should eventually watch this later, wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. But all that being said, I'm going to tell you a little about the film, a few things I liked, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So as you can imagine, there'll be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't know what happens in this movie, and you might not, there are some surprises, including an amazing, amazing cameo. I keep talking about this cameo. It's an amazing cameo. If you don't want to know any of that, I would turn off when I get there. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. I'll let you know when I get to those spoilers. So in Y2K, you have two friends, Evan and Danny, who are trying to figure out what to do on New Year's Eve. It is 1999. It is about to turn over to 2000. And all this horrible stuff is being predicted. The computers are going to fail. Planes are going to fall from the sky. It's going to be catastrophe. They're trying to figure out what to do. They're trying to figure out how they'll spend their night. But when the clock does strike midnight, some crazy stuff starts to happen. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, I love the music. It has plenty of 90s nostalgia music there. Just, good songs, good classic songs, good classic movie music references. The soundtrack is fantastic. It definitely brought me back and definitely kind of made me smile. Second thing I love, related to the music, but kind of more general, I love the nostalgia. It is set in the 90s. It feels like the 90s. They've got, AOL internet, they've got dial-up, you've got old versions of Windows and Mac OS, you've got AOL Instant Messenger, you've got fashion, you've got toys. Definitely evokes a 90s feel, definitely feels, time appropriate. The third thing I love, it's funny at times. I mean, it's not like it has some very funny moments, some really, really funny moments. I didn't love the humor throughout, but there were some really, really great moments, some really funny kind of throwback references, some great cultural references, and also just kind of high school at the time. You had the freaks, you had the jocks, you had the nerds, all of that stuff is here and it's very fitting. And the last thing I loved, I've mentioned it a couple times, the cameo. There's really fun cameos in here. I loved it. It was just a wonderful, wonderful surprise. So if you don't know about it, I would not, because it is a fun kind of surprise moment in the movie. So all that being said, things I didn't love as much. The first, it's more comedy than horror. I think that's by design. I think it's supposed to be a campy, cheesy movie, but I wanted the horror to be a little bit better. It was never really scary. It had some gore, but it was always on the campy B movie side of gore. So I wanted this to be a little bit more horror focused, maybe have a little bit of a sense of dread. It never really got there. I don't think that's what they were going for, but for me, it's a horror comedy. I kind of want a little bit more of the horror. Second thing I didn't love as much, there is some corny writing. It's fine. It's overall, it gets the point across, but some of the writing is a little bit corny. Some of the scenes are a little bit corny. Again, I think they're going for cheese. I think they're going for camp, but I didn't love it as much as I was expecting to, and it made some of the jokes kind of fall flat for me. And the last thing I didn't love, call it bad technology. Again, I think this is by design, but the hacking scenes did not look that great. It looked kind of like, Jurassic Park hacking, it looked kind of like hackers hacking. And maybe that's the point, right? They are rolling back, they're calling back to the 90s. They're using bad hacking scenes from 90s movies in this movie. Maybe it's all part of it, but for me, the hacking just didn't look good. We've had some really good kind of accurate looking hacking scenes recently. Some movies that have kind of actually shown what a hack might look like. This one was definitely kind of more on the campy, silly 90s movie style. So, all that being said, Y2K comes to theaters on December 6th, 2024. Like I said, I think you should probably watch it later, wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. But if you do check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And I'm going to really quickly go into a recap right now. So, if you don't know what happened to this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So, Y2K, set in 1999. It's the 90s. You might not remember the 90s. If you do remember the 90s, it was a very different time. Internet was mostly dial-up, although I had high-speed internet at that point. Computers were pretty archaic. The web was new and exciting and fun. You had all this like sense of hope in what was going to happen. We can all see what happened with the web. It didn't exactly turn out great, but this was a time of new possibilities. You had video rental stores where you go to rent discs and cassette tapes. Again, crazy idea. You didn't have a fully connected, always on device in your pocket. You had like payphones, I think, and just a very different type of world, a very different type of technology. And there was a scare that when the clocks went from 1999 to 2000, some of the computers might not be able to update that. The date format might get messed up, and I think the idea was the date might turn over, and you might then go back to the original date that the computers were all created at. Uh, I think time was set at an incrementation of seconds from, someday in 1970. I think it was like January something 1970, and that's how computers kept time. They were worried that when you switched over to 2000, the date format might not keep up. The date format might get messed up. You might get, computers doing crazy things because now they think, oh my gosh, we were at 1999, now we're at zero. What's going to happen? Planes would fall from the sky, transformers would blow up, we'd lose power, all of that stuff. Ultimately, it didn't happen, but this movie looks at what if it did. And maybe, given how our world is going, this might have been the better scenario. Who knows? But it is 1999. You have Eli and his friend Danny. They are best friends. They're kind of losers. They're both, not super popular. They're equipment managers for the women's basketball team. They enjoy each other's company, but they are not like the coolest kids in school. And they're trying to figure out what to do on Y2K. Now, Eli has a big crush on a popular girl named Laura, who seems to have a little bit more depth than you would expect from a popular girl in like traditional high school tropes. She seems to be very smart. She seems to be very good with computers. Eli and her kind of like talk about computer stuff. I guess she's the web administrator for the basketball team, so she's like making the web page, things like that. So Laura seems to have some depth, and she seems to kind of, like Eli, at least their interactions seem to be that way. So Eli is crushing on her and trying to figure out what to do now. Eli and Danny are hanging out, and they run into Laura with some of her popular friends, some of the other girls in her school, and some college boys that seem to be hanging around. Her friends steal booze from somewhere, but Laura invites both Eli and Danny to a party at this person named Chris's house that night. So a Y2K party, a New Year's Eve party. Eli's very excited. Danny wants him to go, so they kind of get ready and they end up going. They make it there. It's okay. Danny is kind of more gregarious, more outgoing. At the start, Eli puts in like a mixtape they made that starts with a thong song, everyone's favorite Cisco song. And Danny kind of like sings it and dances it. He gets everyone up and pot and happy about it. And Danny seems to be having a good time. Eli is a little bit more quiet. He eventually sees Laura. They talk, and it seems like Laura likes him, but Eli can't close the deal. And eventually, Laura gets pulled away by some more popular kids, and Eli is sad. Now, at some point, we do find out that Laura is recently single. She used to have a boyfriend who was in college, but they recently broke up. So Eli was excited about this vector, but he couldn't do anything. He couldn't close the deal. He couldn't talk to her pretty much. And so Laura eventually went to hang out with more popular kids, and Eli did not. Now, eventually, the clock strikes midnight, and Eli doesn't have anyone to kiss. He's a little sad, but he's probably not too sad because then everything goes crazy. Machines start rising up and killing people. Just like I think it started with one of those like mechanical beds that can adjustable beds. It threw someone up, and they hit a fan and like cut their face off essentially. That was the first thing that happened. But then all these machines start coming and attacking, microwave attacks, blender attacks. It seems like that all these machines, anything that has a microchip, is now attacking people. And some of the machines are combining into like robot-like forms that have pieces of technology all throughout them that are also killing people. So Eli and Danny, along with Laura, run, they try to escape, they run into like, I guess like the freak crowd, the goth crowd, whatever you want to call them, the ones that are into like metal music. Um, three of those people also end up in this crew. So we've got like a crew of six people who are trying to escape. They head to the garage, but as they're leaving, Danny gets killed. He goes back to grab a backpack and a machine, like chainsaw, cuts him through the door. Danny dies, but Eli and the rest of them escape. Now, as soon as they get outside, one of the freaks named Farkas, who was played by Eduardo Franco, he's in rollerblades because they all got different transportation devices to try to like get out of here. He sees a knocked over basketball hoop. He goes to rail grinds it, falls off, hits his head. He's not wearing his helmet. Wear your helmets, kids, and dies. He starts bleeding from the back of his head, dies. It was a funny scene. It was kind of like very random. Eduardo Franco is a pretty, I like him. I was hoping he'd be in the movie longer, but it was really funny to see him just kind of like exit this way. So after this, there's four of them left over. There's Eli, Laura, and then CJ and Ash, who are both kind of like freak metalhead, rock kids. So they all make their way down to this like mill because apparently there's no technology there, and they're thinking that this might be the safest place to go. They eventually get there, and there is a stoner crew here, including one of Eli and Danny's friends, Garrett, who runs a video store. We saw him earlier. He's like chill, a stoner. They're at this mill. There's only candles here. There's no technology. They're playing like acoustic guitar. And also, Laura's ex-boyfriend, Jonas, is here. And that causes Eli to be sad because Laura and him instantly kind of reconnect, even though they'd recently broke up. They have a familiarity. They start to connect, and now Eli is sad. Eli's sad a lot during this movie. Now, while they're here, Eli's computer has materialized into a robot and ends up coming to the mill. I guess it followed Eli. And so it seems to be friendly. They, learn more from the computer, and from this computer, they learn about a plan to enslave all of humanity. So there's some sort of AI that has been infecting the various processing chips. Anything that has a processor, it has been seeding a virus. Okay, sure. And now all of these technology is rising up to try to enslave people. Now, the technology seems to be killing everyone, and I guess that doesn't seem to be helping their plan, but eventually they are going to herd everyone to this school and inject a microchip into their head and then use human processing power, our brain, to then utilize that to improve their robotic capabilities and improve, control us, but also use their processing power to make themselves more powerful, and will just essentially become a processing farm. So you learn all of this, and then Eli's computer eventually attacks Laura. It's trying to strangle her, and Eli has to destroy his own computer. So after this traumatic incident, everyone's kind of hanging out, and Laura and Jonas go and talk somewhere in the woods. Eli sees this, gets jealous, even though he can't see what they're saying. It seems like Laura might be breaking up with him or telling him that it's over. Eli just sees them, gets jealous, decides to leave with the other freaks. So he leaves with CJ and Ash. Now, during this time, Laura, after she talks to Jonas, goes in and starts hacking away at Eli's computer. It's broken, but she's able to get in there a little bit. And so she develops a virus to destroy the other virus. It's her own counter virus to destroy the virus that has been infecting this machine. Now, it works, but this machine has been taken offline. They cut the Wi-Fi transmitter before this, and so it is no longer connected to the internet. It's no longer connected to Wi-Fi. So the virus works, but it can't propagate to other computers. But Laura has a USB stick that has the virus, and the USB stick, I don't think that was time appropriate because I'm pretty sure USB sticks were invented in 2000. I remember them being very rare up until 2005, 2004-ish, maybe a little bit before that, but a USB stick was not common in 1999, but it's fine. That's fine. You need some vector to get this virus over there, and probably finding a floppy disk or a zip drive would have been too difficult. So she has a USB stick. She develops this and then decides to go meet up with them. Now, Laura catches up with the rest of the crew who left, and unfortunately, they are being attacked by one of the robots. One of the robots pursued them and is attacking them. Garrett tries to step in and help, but he gets killed by this robot, and everyone else goes to hide in the porta potty. And this is Eli, CJ, Ash, and Laura. They go and hide in the porta potty. The robot tries to attack them, but ends up knocking them down. The porta potty slides down a hill. It's this strange kind of romantic scene because Laura and Eli are right next to each other. It looks like they're gonna kiss, but then they get spattered with porta potty juice, and it has is playing this beautiful music. They're sliding down the hill, and it's kind of like ruining this romantic moment. But they escape. And when this is all done, Eli gets up. He seems annoyed at this whole situation. He like yells about his shoes being dirty and he throws them away and starts walking. And they all walk to the video store where Garrett worked. And when they get there, Eli finds some of Garrett's Birkenstocks, so he now has, comfortable shoes to wear, but they also find someone that you don't expect to see. Fred Durst, plain Fred Durst. Limp Bizkit's Fred Durst is at the video store. He was doing a show during Y2K, and then everything went crazy. Everything attacked him, and so he was the only one of his band to escape. Everyone else is dead. So Fred Durst is, for some reason, hiding in this video store, and the kids all convince him to help them with their plan. Their plan is to go to the school where they know the robots are hurting all of the people to inject them with this chip, and they're going to try to stop it, and they convince Fred Durst to go with it. And I'm saying Fred Durst every time. Every single time they say his name, they say Fred Durst in this movie. It was a wonderful little, like, funny nostalgia, like Easter egg thing in there. Like every single time, it's Fred Durst, Fred Durst, Fred Durst. So I will say that as well during this review. So they sneak into the school, and Fred Durst distracts the crowd and the robots while Laura tries to hack into the mainframe computer and insert her virus. Fred Durst sings "Break Stuff." Laura is trying to hack, but as she's doing it, the computer is shutting down the ports, like physically shutting them down. I don't know why she didn't just like tear off whatever the cover was, but she can't get into there. Now, during this whole scene, the robots try to attack Fred Durst, and CJ, who is like super into underground rap, super into like socially conscious rap, like doesn't like mainstream stuff like Limp Bizkit. He jumps in and saves Fred Durst before while the robots are attacking him. So as CJ's dying, Fred Durst leans over him and says, like, "I thought you hated me." And CJ, like, grabs his hand and says, "Rap is rap," and then dies, which I liked. I like to see it also. Like, it was a funny kind of callback because CJ was all about like underground music, socially conscious music, and you hate on Fred Durst the entire time. But in the end, they found common ground because Fred Durst was helping them. Now, eventually, Laura is able to hack into this mainframe computer using admin access to a web page that she has. Okay, sure, fine, whatever. She gets into there. That gives her, I guess, admin access to this computer virus thing with this like sentient computer that we see. It looks very much like a Lawnmower Man-esque person that is displayed on the screen. She gets admin access to this, is able to open the USB port as the countdown is happening, as the conversion of people is happening, and they are getting closer and closer to 100%. She sticks the USB drive into there, executes the virus, propagates, everything shuts down, the big computer device in the middle of the room collapses, all the robots die or at least go offline, and everyone is saved. And all the people, and some people now have, microchips in their head that are deactivated. Just wait until they find out about 5G. Then those microchips are going to be super powerful. But until then, they'll be fine. Now, everyone is safe. Everyone survives. And after all this, Eli finally gets the nerve to kiss Laura. Now we see like 5 years later, it seems like the world has changed a lot. Fred Durst used this experience to kind of become a tech entrepreneur and then eventually use his wealth to run for senator. So he is now Senator Fred Durst, or at least Senator-elect Fred Durst. I mean, look, Fred Durst seems cool. I don't think I'd mind him being my senator. So more power to him. That he is Senator-elect Fred Durst. Laura, who is a computer whiz, is through college. She is actually working at Durst Industries and, getting a job there. Eli is also in college. I forget what he's doing. And Ash is there too. They all go to visit Danny's grave. It's a lovely scene. It's a lovely way to kind of like wrap it all up and see what happens. But then also, I think if I remember right, as they're starting the car to leave, on the CD player screen, the robot AI thing shows its face. So maybe it's not over. Maybe they didn't kill it. Maybe it was just hibernating, or maybe a new virus is being spouted out. But that is the end of Y2K. And also during the credits, there is a funny music video that plays. It is like Danny doing the thong song with like AI looking robots twerking. It is very funny. It's a nice callback to it. I don't know if there was an actual stinger at the very end because I had to leave to go to another movie, but that is at least what happens during the credits. And that is Y2K. Like I said, I think you should watch it eventually. Watch it later. Wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. But you know what? If you do check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know what you like and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you.